going back to the rights, I guess my question is, what is a right that a man has that a woman doesn't in the United States
today?
You know, I haven't looked deep into laws like that. I can't state one, but I do believe they don't have one against their body saying you can't do certain things with your body.
I mean, hold on. You're a female advocate. Okay. I mean, but you haven't done the research on the type of advocacy you're trying to do?
No, I have, like, you know, stayed up with, like, the laws and things like that, but nothing recently that's been passed stating that men can't do or can't use their body in certain ways.
No, so I'm just asking, so what is a right that a man has? Because you said women's rights. Well, what is the right in which that you're trying to equalize?
I'm not trying to equalize one. We're talking about, we brought it back to abortion laws, correct?
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's the only one?
That was the one.
When it comes to a right, so is your position, men have bodily autonomy, women don't? Is that your position?
No, not that I've, like, heard.
Okay, so
there's about men and like what they're not allowed to do with their body. I'm
trying to understand.
I'm focusing on, when I brought up abortion laws, I'm stating how what was the word we used earlier?
Advocacy.
No, that's not the word I'm thinking of.
Right.
Bodily autonomy.
No, you guys are just throwing words at me and confusing me. When you're not allowed to do something, right? Or
right.
I can't think of the word. I'm blanking out.
Right,
now.
a prohibition.
No, you guys are just throwing words at me now. It's making it worse.
We'll be here. We'll be quiet for 10 seconds.
No, we're good on the 10 seconds.
We'll
I'm
give
fast.
you 10 seconds without any interruption.
But, like, stating that, like, you know, what is a man to say what a woman's allowed to do with her body?
What do you...
Outside of abortion, what are you talking about?
No, that's what I was talking about.
But you can.
Okay, so I'm happy to have that conversation, but aside from that, is there any right that the man has that the woman doesn't?
Not that I can think of the top of my head.
You can't think of it, but do you think that there is? Or is that the only thing? And then
that a man has a right to do that a woman doesn't?
No, is there a right that a man has that a woman doesn't? Aside from that?
Here in the U.S.?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so
Not that I can think of.
when it comes to reproductive rights, that has to do with bodily autonomy? Yeah. Well, I mean, doing a comparison when it comes to bodily autonomy, although these are, like, somewhat different, men also, although this is completely different, you're talking about abortion, right? From the government down, when it comes to bodily autonomy, there's forced military conscription, which women are exempt from. So there's actually a more compelling argument that men are oppressed under the purview of the state or the government when it comes to bodily autonomy. And also, because there's no law preventing, for example, circumcision, there's a much greater argument when it comes to male bodily autonomy, because children don't have the capacity to deny when their single mom is giving birth to them in the hospital and the single mom wants to have their child circumcised. The child can't protect, so there ought to be some sort of law that prevents children from getting circumcised.
So do you think there should be against men as there is women?
What do you mean?
Like that there should be laws regarding just with women's bodies as well as men's bodies, what they're allowed to do?
Well, I'm saying that, you know, there's when it comes to bodily autonomy, the state actually has, there's arguably more oppression towards men when it comes to bodily autonomy, because nobody's forcing you to have sex and get pregnant.
Facts.
I mean,
what if they were, like, raped?
Yeah, sure.
How
So
often
how about
does
this?
that happen?
Let's have, yeah. So
Very
hold
often.
On. Okay, cool. So if I'm prepared to say that abortion is totally cool in the event of incest, rape, grape. Sorry, my bad. Grape or the life of the mother. You guys are totally 100% against all other abortions.
One more time.
Reckless behavior.
Okay, so absolutely, some women get raped, or there's incest or whatever, or perhaps the life of the mother is at risk. And if I'm going to go ahead and say yes, abortion in those instances is totally okay, are you guys prepared to agree that it's wrong in all the other instances?
No.
Okay, so, and you do realize that, like, when it does come to abortion, most of these women are using, are getting abortions for basically, like, as birth control. Like, they're having consensual sex.
That's some.
Hold on. No, it's the 99% of abortions.
How do you know?
How do you know most women are getting pregnant from getting raped?
Okay, first of all, there's statistics that prove that. Y'all could.
And then I believe there's
So
a
hold
process.
on. So let's be clear now. So you're telling me that most women who get abortions,
Oh, no. I'm not saying most women that get abortions. I'm
No,
not
we talking
saying
about abortions.
most.
I'm
I'm just
saying
saying
mo-
there's a lot of.
I'm saying, but most women that get abortions, they're not getting them because they were raped. They're getting them because they don't want to be tied to that man.
But it's
That's
also
not
the other
necessarily
thing,
true. There's
the
other
other
reasons
states
why.
of like the body, right? The health and the life of the
Yeah,
woman.
we established
the
that.
rape.
We
so
talking about
just
outside
as
of
the
that.
graph we
So-
pulled up for school, there's a graph for percentages on how many women did get raped, how many women did get,
Yeah, so
let's
the
say
health and
majority,
wellness of the body.
It's probably
Well,
one-
here's the stats.
Who knows the majority? Okay, yeah, let's
It's
pull up the stats.
0.5%.
Wow.
What's the stat for that? Like, what is that?
I just told you, 0.5% who are victims of rape.
And that's reported,
But that's
right?
reported because there's a lot that's not reported.
Yeah, but okay, not all
unreported,
women who
that's
are
not-
raped end up pregnant.
Hang on.
Okay, but
When you
also-
when you do a study for self-reporting, you add in the control that there's going to be unreported amounts of X.
Mm-hmm.
So they're adjusting for how many people are not reporting to come up with this number. It's actually way less people than 0.5% who reported it due to rape.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it raises that high is because they're adjusting for the amount who have not reported, who are estimated to have reported based on the number who have. That's a
Okay,
control.
and somebody just wants to get an abortion because they don't want to have a baby because of what they're doing in their life right now. I feel like that's completely okay. Like,
But,
So hang on, I'm just going to give you the rest
they're
of the
not a victim,
percentages.
though.
Woman's life was endangered.
you don't.
It's 0.27%. There was a serious fetal abnormality. It's 1%. Woman's physical health threatened by the pregnancy, 1%. That's it.
And if
That's
we do 1%
the entirety of all of these pregnancies you're talking about. So you're saying 98% of them don't fall within that category.
That's a huge discrepancy.
But in any case, we were talking about rights, and so
Number one reason, not financially prepared.
Okay.
40%, not a good time, 36%, issues with the partner, 31%, need to focus on other children, 29%. Almost none of it is in regards to the health and welfare of the
But
mother.
what percent of that is also like partnered, right? Like the woman's just not making that decision on her own to go.
Most of them
and do
are
it.
because I know more women. Put like this, if y'all got pregnant and if you didn't want to keep it, can that man convince you to keep it?
Maybe if it's a good partner.
But most of the time, I'm saying, but if it was a good partner, you wouldn't think about
We
getting
can't
rid of
say
it.
Exactly.
most of the time, majority of the time, going based off women that you know, because that is not an accurate representation of like the large majority
We just got
of
the
women
data.
that need
So how many women you know got pregnant from getting raped? Exactly.
I'm not going to share that.
I'm
But
just saying because you know that ain't what's happening.
I
Like,
definitely know a friend that got
just-
assaulted and ended
how-
up pregnant and got an abortion.
how
But okay.
many-
Just so you
I know
know, what the
one.
stats also say
I
is
know
that
one.
most women who are SA'd, and this is tragic, nobody's saying that this isn't horrific. It is. It's horrific. And I hope that those men get punished greatly, thrown in prison forever, or given the electric chair. I'm fine with all of those options. But most women who are SA'd do actually end up having the baby, just so you know. Most of them do. So the thing is, by their own choice, interestingly enough. The amount of women who seek out abortive services for SA is extraordinarily small. Like I said, 0.5% by reports.
And look, going back to the thing, we were talking about rights. I'm not really super interested in going like heavy into like some sort of abortion discussion, but we were talking about rights. And so while I already went ahead and granted like in those situations, sure, okay, go ahead, get an abortion. But like most of these women are not getting abortions for those reasons. So it's not clear to me like it's just irresponsibility or whatever it is.
Well, don't you? So you're saying? Oh.
But so the government, here's the thing, the government isn't forcing you to have sex and to get pregnant. Whereas when it comes to male bodily autonomy issues, while the government doesn't force hospitals to do circumcisions, this is sort of like the de facto, the status quo when it comes to like male boys, babies in hospitals. Yeah, without their informed consent, they have their penises mutilated upon birth. I would suspect actually most of the women here at this table, if you were ever to become like pregnant and the father wasn't involved, you would probably end up circumcising, translation, mutilating the genitals of your baby boy. That's a whole nother thing. Secondly, when it comes to forced military conscription, that is state down. So the state can force you to go to war and die or, be in some sort of military conflict that you have no interest in being a part of, that you didn't contribute at all to. 18-year-old guy in Kentucky.
I think
boom.
they have that for women now.
I was about to
too.
say
Like,
women
they
can't go
don't.
to war
don't.
either.
Are you
They
sure?
don't.
Yeah,
I
I'm
would
100.
double
Trust me,
check.
I'm 100%
read
sure.
something about that,
They don't.
stating
Women-
that like
So women
Really?
can't get
Where's your
drafted.
selective service card?
Ooh, okay. hang
You
on.
have
This
one?
is-
That's
this
a
is
thing?
hang
Yeah,
on, this is
I
totally
do.
fair.
can
This-
I see? Like,
I
what,
don't
This is a
have
totally fair thing
well,
to
you
say.
said you had one. That's why I was
just
like,
wanna
I
let
don't
you
know what
just
that is. I
ask
want
a
to
single
learn.
question. Raise your hand if you have a driver's license. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, when you went down and you got your driver's license at the DMV, did they ask you if you wanted to register to vote?
Yep.
Did they sign you up for the selective services?
No.
Was it
The way
asked
that I
on
know
there
that
as
they
well?
didn't sign you up for the selective services is because men cannot sign up to vote unless they sign up for the selective services. Simple.
Interesting.
Learn something new every day.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Well, here, I can show you this. So this is a,
You can handle this. That's crazy.
yeah, you can get this at the post office. It's a selective service at the top. You see how it says men 18 to 25. Here, I'll put it to the, maybe we can do it like this. Hold on. We'll go here. Boom, men 18 to 25. And then if you open up, there is here, that's the registration there. And I'll read the card. It says, who has to, I think it says who has to
So can I ask a
register.
question?
Just one sec. Where does it say it? What happens if I don't register? Not registering is a felony. Young men convicted of failure to register may be fined up to $250,000, imprisoned for up to 5 years, or both. In addition to being subject to prosecution, failure to register may cause you to permanently forfeit eligibility for certain benefits. You had a question?
So, as we're speaking on like women's rights and what we fight for, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't agree with that, why don't you guys fight for the opposite of it?
Well,
Because we
For
have
the
a
change of
problem.
it.
Right, so here's our problem. The problem is in our quest for egalitarianism, we forgot that there's only some roles that one sex can do and that the other can't. For instance, women can have children and men can't. That's just a brute fact that nobody can do anything about. And only men can fight in frontline combat, and women really can't do that. We don't have any GI Janes. We don't have any female Navy SEALs. We don't have any because even though it's been open to them for many, many, many years, they can't actually cut the mustard to do it. They are not equipped physically to take on those roles. But we do need to have a military. We need to have frontline combat soldiers if we need them in case our country gets invaded. And we may have to take those out of the pool of people who are particularly unwilling, but know that it is part of their duty. And so because of that, we don't really have an option to tell men ultimately that they can't be drafted because we won't have a nation. It would weaken our nation so significantly that we may not even have one. So the thing is that this is a higher duty that men have. So where's the higher duty that women have? Where is it?
Giving birth, like you stated. That is,
Giving birth. So then that would say that there's some duty there. If there's a duty there for me, if I get drafted to go fight, how come there's no duty for you if you get pregnant to have the child?
Outside
If it's only a
of
thing you can
negative
do.
stuff.
It's only a thing you can do and I can't. But yet here's this thing only I can do and you can't. Yet
But-
I would be required to go. Where's your requirement?
Don't men get like rewarded for going to war and stuff like
Yeah,
that though?
they
Like
get
Women
with
don't
No, they
veterans
get
and
killed. They
stuff
get blown to
like
pieces.
Yeah, they get
Hang on.
killed.
They die.
Here's a
They don't
reward.
always
They get
die. Like,
shot.
everybody
They
that
get
goes
shot.
to war
That's a
doesn't
reward.
die.
They get shot. They get blown to bits. They get tortured.
that's not
in prison
everybody that
war
goes to
camps.
war.
Horrible things happen to
I
them. They
have
have
family that
massive
went to the
psychological
military that
damage
didn't
for
die.
life. That's what happens.
I mean, there's
That's what
some
happens.
Can I
And
jump
by
in
the
there?
way, here's what the nation often does. If they need you bad enough for war, they'll conscript you with no pay. If they can't afford to pay you, sometimes you'll go 8 months without a paycheck and your family suffers for it. Yes, men definitely get the raw end of the stick when it comes to being drafted. It's a higher duty. We have to follow that higher duty. Where's your higher duty? What is it?
And can I add something to that? Because he's right. But you notice how when we provide you actual data of what happens, you go and find the minority of what contradicts what we say. But when it comes to women, you find the minority and make that the majority of what we're saying. It's like whatever we say, you go to the other side. It's like
think y'all are doing the same thing.
we just gave you, hold on, we just gave you a chart from the data, because you said bring up the data, we brought it. Less than 1% of the population of women did these things based on being assaulted. most men, a lot of men die in the Army, but you want to avoid all those men that die just to focus on the ones that don't, just to win an argument. That's why I feel like a lot of times in this position, women have been sold a false image, and they call it feminism, but it's really them dumbing down your natural ability and power of being feminine to really compare yourself to men. So it's like, it's not really a feminist thing. They devalue what's powerful to you, which is the ability to have children, the ability to be a supporter. That's powerful. But women have been tricked to thinking that the only way to express power and force is by being a man.
I think we just found other ways to enforce our power, and also like.
What y'all brought up school? You brought up masculine things. Like, what's
How is
something
school masculine?
I mean,
knowledge is very universal.
yeah, depending on what you're doing. But if you use the knowledge to focus on yourself, knowledge is only power when you use it to help the many. What do women do that besides giving birth? Because it's a lot of, because put it like this. A man doesn't have to have, his value goes beyond being somebody's mate. Mm-hmm. A man could be single his whole life, but works in a field that powers houses for hundreds of people, that works in certain fields that affect hundreds of thousands.
There's women in history who
we know there's always an anomaly. We're talking about what happens most of the time.
I mean, majority, there's working class, like if you're saying levels, right? There's working class men, there's working class women. There's people who have done extraordinary things that are both men and women.
We understand that, but we got all the data. We did a chart. We showed a chart. All these hard jobs that the infrastructure of society is dependent on, 94 to 99% of them were done by men. So men have a value to the world outside of being with the woman. So outside of giving birth, and for the most cases, what do most women do that benefit the many? Like the jobs y'all got, do they benefit others besides yourself?
Yeah, taking care of the old, taking care of the elderly.
That's true.
In village time, and like before modernization, men would go hunt, gather, farm.
No, but I'm talking about today.
The women would stay and take care of the place, watch, security.
Which most women don't want to do no more.
kids.
Yeah, which most women don't want to do no more.
If most women didn't want to do it, then I feel like it would be way more kids in foster care and foster homes.
There's a lot of kids in foster care.
Well,
And there is. I know.
that.
Okay, and I know that,
Yeah.
but I'm saying like, how can you say most women aren't doing that and women are still
Because
getting pregnant
women
and having
literally
kids?
fought for the right to not do that. They
Well,
fought
just
for
so
the
you
right to be
know,
like
you know,
men. They don't want to be in the house.
There's a few things here that are actually incorrect suppositions. So the thing is that, for one thing, all 100% of children who are given up for adoption at birth in the United States are adopted. 100%. All of them. Every single one of them.
But like
So,
adopted.
and there's
into
actually a waiting
family,
list. There's
I'm
actually a
confused,
waiting list that's a mile long for people who want to adopt more children. So that's one. The idea here, though, is that actually women are having less and less children because they factor in education during their reproductive years, which is going to be in their 20s, roughly. That's their primary reproductive years. And so if you focus on education during those years, you end up with less children. Women are getting married now in their 30s. Well, the average age is 31, in fact. That's going to limit the amount of children necessarily that the average woman is going to have, which is why we have 1.6 children for every 2 people in the United States, which means we can't reproduce our own population. Women are having way, way less children. There's no higher duty anymore to
Is
do
that in
that.
2024?
I'm not sure, but with the question with that, then I think we're looking at abortion in a different viewpoint of things, right? We are very overpopulated in the world too. Like there's other aspects in life that you look at.
You could fit the entire population of the world in Texas, and they would each get a square acre. The truth is that we're not in any way, shape, or form overpopulated. Here's the truth. What's going on is in the 1970s and even before that in the 60s, there was a massive campaign which was done, which made the bold claim that humanity was going to starve if we didn't stop the reproduction which was happening. Books like The Population Bomb were dropped all over Africa and all over the Middle East and all over India, saying that this was what was going to happen. In fact, actually the opposite happened. It turns out as you have more hands, you can end up multiplying the amount of work you can do. And effectively, because of the high population that we have, starvation globally almost eradicated. It's almost completely eradicated. Nobody in the United States right this second, or in Canada, right, or in any European nation, and in most other nations, actually will starve unless it's by choice. It's almost impossible. In fact, if you were starving right this second, if you hadn't eaten in 5 days, you could go to your local emergency room and they will feed you. It's a matter of policy. You will get fed. you can't actually starve to death unless it's by choice or abuse. That's the only way it can even be done. The opposite happened. Our food production went through the roof. Does it feel to you like you don't have enough goods at your disposal? No, the opposite. Right now, you can order something from India, have it here in 4 days. Well, think about the process. That takes the factory in India, right? After that, after all the hands craft that, then there's the logistics of it. They have to get it on a plane. Someone's got to fly that plane, right? They got to fly it and they got to land it in an airport. It takes tons of people in order to guide that plane in. And then you got to put it in a truck, and then that goes to a warehouse, and then it gets dispersed from there locally, and et cetera, et cetera. More hands actually creates a huge amount more work which can be done. And that's the only reason in modernity population can even exist like we do. Nobody's starving. You have ready-made goods at your disposal. That's all because of the high population. If we had a downsizing of the population, which is where we're heading, that's when we're going to start seeing catastrophes. They call it a population collapse. Then you don't have enough hands on deck to do work. Like, think about this. If you're on a desert island, would you rather have 15 people there or 2 people there? You'd rather have 15. You're going to get a lot more work done. Your survival is definitely going to increase drastically. So the thing is like that's the way it is in the world too. Generally, more people actually solves more problems than it hurts.
Dark Omen 42 donated $200.